Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dictatorship, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order, as Mexico. Now, last time we were here together, well, we started working on resolving the doctor's strike. We decided to do the more, mindful and collaborative cooperative route, which usually not in the Pre's wheelhouse, but we'll see how it ends up going. We also started working a little bit on reducing poverty and expanding on Mateos's programs. Now we're working on some economic stuff. So we're going to start off with Ejido mechanization. The establishment of the Ejidos has been a pinnacle for success for the revolution in providing for the peasants. For Madrazo, it is natural that the system needs to be modernized. The current situation of the Ejidos is beset by ineffective and obsolete equipment, whilst the farming system itself is also being neglected by the government. The Ejido Mechanization Act will deliver modern tools and amenities to the Ejidos through the nation. Excuse me. Like electricity, tractors, and fertilizers. The equipment will significantly increase the yield of struggling farmers and give more income to an undeserved part of the rural population. So that'll give us more tax population and also reduce our poverty even more. So I view this as an undeniable good. Ernesto P. Orchorta must have read the newspaper 5 times before Jesus Reyes Eroles, head of CEN, arrived outside of his office to begin the meeting. After being sacked, he figured the next best way for him to stay employed was a job at CNO. He was 5 minutes late. New metro announced for Mexico City. Del Rosal praised for new efforts. Such bullshit, he thought to himself before Reyes arrived, apologizing for his lateness, inviting him into the office. Orchorta walked in after him, getting straight to business before Reyes could even introduce himself. You guys need me. Excuse me, licenciado. You heard me right. That's Del Rosal guy. Orchorta reeled himself back in, relaxing stance. Simply lacks connections I add to the industrialists and Japanese investors. This city needs me in some important capacity, leader or not. Sinop is the next best thing. Though his counterpart was unemployed, Reyes knew of the sway that a man like Orchorta had, and the importance of his loyalty to keep the party together. He pondered his next words. Perhaps not Sinop right now, but though you could try elsewhere. And just as I was about to call for the night, the man offered me the Undersecretary of Culture. To think of me, lowly ambassador intellect, would be sitting there. Octavia Paz sat in deep conversation with longtime friend and fellow writer Carlos Fuentes, detailing his exploits thus far as a selected cabinet member. Funny you say that, my friend. You need a reminder that as soon as I made it big, I resigned from the government, not joined it. Carlos gave a friendly jab to his friend, the two sharing a laugh and masked a deeper warning. Literary projects, career plans, and family matters bounced between the two, though Carlos returned to his anecdote. But seriously, Octavio, Vespil was coming. I left for a reason. This party, it consumes all who's enter. Corruption, deceit, lies. That's exactly why I joined Carlos, Madrazo and I. We can fight the... No. You do not understand. It can never change. I wish you luck, as I always do, but I fear the Pre can never change. I just hope you follow my footsteps and realize it before it is too late. Maybe. But we have to try. Well, our poverty rate's coming down pretty well, so I think we're trying it well enough. Issue. Organization of GPG in northwest Chihuahua. To Commander Gutierrez Barrios. Yesterday, a group of soldiers from the 5th Military Zone who were on patrol in the municipality of Madero were ambushed by the paramilitaries believed to be from the Grupo Popular Guerrilla, over GPG. Despite light casualties of 3 wounded, a considerable amount of equipment was stolen from them, including weaponry and radio. Well, it is been known for several months, the group was leaning in a more militaristic direction. This attack has been marked a worrying change in tactics for the organization. Previously, the terrorists had contented themselves with small-scale robberies and attacks on landowners and prominent locals. However, since the leader Arturo James Garcia declared that he would cease nonviolent activity to bring about a social state, the GPG has transformed itself from a paramilitary wing into a guerrilla army, recruiting followers and arming them. A source indicates that some of their elements have begun talking to the Sierra Tarahumara to train and hide weapons. The local authorities are already worried about this trend, fearing the GPG could begin targeting officials on the state and federal level soon. My team and I share their concerns. It is my informed belief that allowing the GPG to continue down this path could turn them into a real threat, judging from recent experience with Cuban and Paraguayan guerrillas. And we could already destabilize this region severely and threaten order. We've already begun several operations with the aim of infiltrating, gathering intelligence, and eventually breaking apart the organization in the near future. Very respectfully, the Internal Security Director in Chihuahua, Captain Marco Serenas. Looks like Madera is going off the reservation. Listen, Seattle, it's clear that there has to be a change in policy. It's unsustainable. Echeverria sat opposite General Director Beltran. He bobbled to Beltran's words, massaging his own hands in pensive contemplation. Madrazo's new construction programs have provoked a wave of protests in indigenous communities, threatening to sabotage this president's new infrastructure initiative. Beltran, for his trouble, could not hide the indignation on his face, much apparent by his strained brow. I have much respect for the president, but he's making a mistake. The indigenous have never trusted the government of Licenciado. They want the capacity to make their own decisions, their own autonomy. By going forward with this project, it's only going to exacerbate this discontent. Echeverria spoke, nodding in deference. I agree, General Director. I have my own reservations. Beltran leaned over his crew desk. But will you act on those reservations, Licenciado? His eyes trained on Echeverria, who had remained still in silent consideration. Echeverria knew something had to be done. It was only right. There wasn't anyone else in the cabinet who would be prepared to take a stand. The state dealt the indigenous a cruel hand for decades, yes, but this was something else entirely. It was now going to bulldoze their existence and pave it over to carve out a new concrete tapestry in the name of infrastructure. He would make the presidency sense. In his newfound clarity, Madrazo would also realize that he kept bad company in managing economic policy. Men and his cronies would lose favor while he would look decisive. It was the perfect opportunity. I'll see what I can do, General Director. I'm gonna do a little bit of reading. Not too much reading. Turns out this guy ends up being a president of Mexico in real life. And he also organizes that student massacre in Tlatelolco? I forget how you say it exactly. The university. So it's not very, not a very nice guy, but he might be okay. Echeverria ambled with Fidel Velasquez down the garden path. He poked his tinted glasses further up his nose, feeling a turgid sweat pour down his pores in the beating sun. Don Fidel himself was armed with the brimmed straw hat that prevented him from suffering in the sweltering heat. Echeverria hadn't much respect for the head of his CTM. He thought of him repugnant, corrupt. The General Secretary, walking at a leisurely pace to his right, would probably be willing to sell half the country if it meant keeping his own seat warm, and then the remaining half just for the sake of it. But Octavio Paz, that little worm, was someone they could commiserate in despising. I know we have our disagreements, General Secretary. Don Fidel huffed a snide laugh. Cut the bullshit, Licenciado. This is about Paz. The two men stopped at a fork in the path. Echeverria placed his hands on his hips, looked to the ground, and broke a terse sigh. Yes, he's getting too big for his boots. Unofficial advisor, mind you, but one who tells Madrazo what and what not to approve. You plan on letting some jumped-up poet get the better of you? Echeverria clasped Latches' forearm suddenly. This isn't just about me. How long till the president starts going after you at that idiot's whim? What then? We need to cut the throat of the snake before it can strike. Velasquez frowned, swatted Echeverria's arm, and gave it a theatrical dusting. Keep your drawers on. But I get your point. Enemy, my enemy, huh? The Christian V alliance with a handshake. Oh, we're losing the bureaucrats. Javert has an ally in case of another debacle with PAS. Very, very interesting. Do some southern industrialization. I think we'll do it in the southeast. One versus 3. Yeah, it's probably best to do that in Tabasco then. Do some manufacturing clusters. Where do we want to do it at? Could we do the northeast or the northwest? I don't know if it matters too much. Maybe Baja too. I actually don't have much going on in Baja. That's a lot of stimulation at the start, actually. Wow. This is gonna be this one, yeah, okay. Let's sponsor some manufacturing clusters there. There we go. We got Ejido mechanization. Alright, we could do AMM Amory cooperation. With union leadership. Let's do a massive pay raise. Actually, let's see what else we can do. We'll do hospital safety tours. Directors. Alright, well, let's do another focus while we're here. And our poverty rate is going down at a pretty rapid rate. That's pretty nice. Next, let's do a Ejido diversification. Corn, wheat, and beans have long been traditional Mexican staples in our kitchens, as well as in our agriculture. While having been staple exports in diversified global markets, new demands have inflated the price of the crops while making the traditional 3 dirt cheap. Our farmers can no longer make a living from these traditional crops. To diversify the agrarian sector, we will help our farmers adopt new plants like nutritious apples and winter vegetables. Seeds for this broad range will be distributed to struggling farmers so they can profit from this novel produce. Well, there we go. Let's do massive pay rise. Comfortable shoes, face coverings, snacks, water, clear lines of communication, ship schedules, standard meetings, messaging, emergency plans, paperwork, transportation, and placards. Even at the lowest level, a lot of preparation was involved in participating in a strike. On the occasion of one such strike, a group of medical interns were making their final checks before coming out in force in front of a local hospital. The armory had set the time and location, they just had to do the rest. Simone was ready to get started. He just had to tie his shoes. He struggled to loop the frayed laces into a proper knot. When he first became an intern, his shoes were clean, pure white, and sturdy. Now they were tattered and barely held together. He could afford new shoes, but he prided himself on their appearance. Each stain was evident of a step taken with his comrades, a testament to his unwavering solidarity. Yes, man! Simone perked up at the sound of a fellow intern's cheer. I just got some great news. The man continued, crunching a piece of paper. The negotiating team got the hospital caved to our demands for greater compensation. Oh, thank God. One of the union declared with sigh of relief. Now we can get back to work. I don't think I could last much longer without any pay coming in. Don't lay down that easy, another intern retorted, emphasizing his accusation with his placard. This just means that we're winning, not that we won. If we push even harder, we can add safety and holidays to our demands. Besides, we're only one part of the movement. What about the rest of the union? He studied the group with sympathetic faces. What about you, Simone? What are you going to do? Today, I'm going to go home. My feet are killing me. The interns were prepared for anything but success. He also presided over the weekly cabinet meeting, fingers interlocked as he sat at the head of the table. Just as the announcement of the plan had moved to discuss the progress of the Indigenous Development Plan, Luis Echeverria suddenly rose. Excellency, colleagues, while the utmost respect for the President's initiative, the project in its current form is unworkable. Indigenous relations are swiftly deteriorating, and there is much discontent and disaffection in the rural South. Echeverria managed to get a final word before the table erupted in near shouting. In my capacity as Secretary of Governance, I recommend the full cancellation of the plan. A few ministers left their seats to engage in either murmured conversations with support or heated discussion across the table. Madrazo saw Echeverria drift over by Beltran, the two swiftly darting around the room to gather support. He felt his heart sink. Standing and banging at the table, Madrazo summoned the bickering factions to attention. All eyes bored on him. It was his time to act. What is the question? What do we do? I don't know what morally to do. But I'm curious what impact it's going to have on our You know what? I don't want to go too wholesome. I've done a savage campaign in my past. If you want to see a totally wholesome reformer, check out that. We'll continue full speed ahead. No development was ever easy, colleagues. I have some reservations about that for sure, but Echeverria rubbed his temple. The memories of Puebla still haunting him, and he mentioned Castillo requires a 5-minute break of the sheer nightmare that was working alongside him. So to prevent himself any more headache, Echeverria was looking to minimize the sources of the conflict that plagued him so much in Puebla, letting the federal security services have the final say. The governors would complain, of course, but Echeverria would shrug it off as always. It just so happens that with news of GPG activity in Chihuahua resurfaced, Governor Guillermo Duran being unable to suppress the insurgency inside his own state. It was like a gift just for him. The last thing he needed to do was prevent his findings to His Excellency and get his needed approval. Alas, Madrazo was content with just reports and news clippings. He looked up from his desk. Secretary, I need to be on the ground for this type of situation. Of course, Your Excellency. I'll prepare the transport. Coordinate with the General Staff while you're at it. I wouldn't want to stumble in GPG activity without the security of the ports ring true. Madrazo got up, flipping through his schedule when he'd be free. How much trouble could possibly be in Chihuahua, anyway? I don't know, I mean, those dogs are fucking vicious. They should not be as vicious as they are. They think they're more vicious than they are. Capable of being able to back it up. You guys know what I mean. Fuck Chihuahuas. That's what I'm trying to say. The workers of the Tlaxcala Ejido were gathered in one room abode building that served as Communiform's modest administrative office. Behind a scarred wooden desk stood a party official, sweating through a suit in the stuffy air. The bureaucrat was working through a list of crops and their commercial uses at lightning pace. Pears, guavas, figs, limes, yams, and so on. Mexico's staples were notably absent. Yams were particularly favored amongst the community. Their use in relieving joint pain and the fact that they could use the vegetables to paralyze fish and catch them by hand was enticing. Itzel, a young Nahua woman, spoke up and mentioned that she heard that the price of yams had skyrocketed. Some factories in the cities were buying them up and turning them into soap. Folks held. Yams it is. 2 weeks later, a battered truck rolled to a stop outside the small office. The brawny driver helped the people unload crates of bulbous, woody seeds, passed out pamphlets about their cultivation. He asked if they had heard about the market for yam soap. Itzel locked eyes with her sister after hearing the truck driver's comments. Both would breathe easier in a year's time. Well, there we go. Let's get working on a Ejido education. Sending the Ejidos brand new equipment and crops has been an important step of the agrarian reforms. Even so, there's still the issue of guidance and expertise that limits peasants from fully utilizing the welfare packages. Given modern technology, without showing its purpose, will lead our programs nowhere. Peasant might know his land, but agronomics know each and every factor that contributes to its yield. Experienced agronomists will tour the nation to educate Ejidos on agronomy, ecology, and how to work with modern equipment. By turning backward farmers into skilled agronomists, the agrarian sector will be modernized. The barricade stank of sweat. Sweat of rural police, sweat of townspeople, of ruffians and thugs, and the Kikikes had hired. The two mighty landowners themselves, Emilio Rascon and Florentino Ibarra. But in this noonday sun, none were sweating more than Salomon, mayor of a small town in Chihuahua, as he clambered atop the pile of furniture. Murray Martinez, a pistol in hand, managed to join him. A hundred eyes, 90 glassy of hunger, rested on the duo. Sebadia has always been a poor place, but these days have seen us sink to new depths of desperation. The GPG have defeated 67th Infantry Battalion, and now sit on the only road out of town. You may ask what hope we have of victory. Mayor Solomon's voice quivered for a moment. But then the voice of Solomon Gaitan rang out true in form. But a victory far greater lies within our grasp. Citizens of Sebadia, the GPG are not our enemy. These men are the ones who have festered as you starved, who robbed you, who beat you for years. You, who have sworn to protect this town, turn your arms on those who ravage it, not those who have come to save it. 50 minds, dull of exhaustion, whirred, but the hands that moved first were that Oza Maria, who loosed a bullet into the arm of Emilio Rascon, shouting, "Viva la Revolucion!" In that signal, all hell broke loose. GPG golems, led by Salvador Gaitan, started charging towards Sebadia, firing into the air and whooping. Salomon and Maria dived for cover as rural police and townsfolk turned on the numerous henchmen of the Caudillos. Ibarra turned to flee but was tackled to the ground by an officer. For a moment, blood flowed freely, before the Kikike's forces joined in a chorus of surrender. Gentlemen, your smiling faces make it all worth it. Former President Lopez Mateos declared to his crowd of stiff-faced businessmen. The grand opening of the Melchor Ocampo port in Michoacan was fast approaching. Diplomats had decided that Mateos, because of his vital role in organizing the port's creation, should host a pre-opening celebration for the business representatives that would flood the port with more than seawater. Japanese Ibetsus, American CEOs, and Mexican industrialists gathered in loose crowds in the new warehouse. Mateos looked over the crowd. The local team had done an excellent job with decorations and refreshments, but if the men in their fancy suits agreed with him, they didn't show it. Even his joke only produced a small number of smiles. I of course, jest. I assure you that this port will be self-evident in its worth. The profit you and Mexico will see will be great. It was only then Mateo saw smiles twist onto the concrete faces of his audience. Must thank you all. First to my Japanese and American friends. Foreign investment is a vital part of the Mexican national development. Mateo's received a series of nearly identical smug nods. Gentlemen, Mateos gestured out to open warehouses, doors, and onto the port beyond. This port and city may be beautiful pieces of engineering, but is only the beginning. Importing the latest industrial tools and machinery will expand Mexico's manufacturing sector. We shall give as much as we receive with this great portal. Mateos couldn't help but bring a grandeur to his speech that went wholly unappreciated by the hard men around him. Mexico's natural bounty will foster much growth for our partners abroad. Thus, the cycle will continue, growing each step, and it all began here. Mateos stepped down from the stage and entered the crowd. He would shake hands and schmooze with foreigners and countrymen, never favoring one group over another. He patrolled the crowd until they beamed with pride over an accomplishment they were forced to aid in. If only they could smile for Mexico's sake alone. Today, a new door opens for Mexico. So some more base stimulation in a couple of these areas, as well as some extra influence and such from the spear. I'm not enjoying the spear right now, I gotta say. I don't think they're enjoying me much either. I think the feeling's mutual. Those debuffs aren't crazy, but debuffs are debuffs still. Subcaba was finally connected after so much hard work had been put into it. The road between the villages and Merida had been paved. Lahoon had expected the mestizos to stop their violations of the lane and leave after their work had finished, and some did. The problem resided in those who stayed. The some that had stayed after they were complete settled near Sacaba, chasing away once more of the land and making it their own, inviting their families to come with them. Not being satisfied with disturbing large swaths of the land, they decided to go straight for the heart, the trees. She saw the small lumber yard in the distance, processing chopped down logs of land into timber, which was apparently precious to the outsiders, something about a difference between this land and the trees where they came from. She didn't care about that and cared more about them. She wasn't alone. Lahoon joined a group of villagers who were upset about the mestizos, and their interactions with them had become more hostile as time passed, and their defiance that they were staying only made things worse. When Lahoon was alone, thoughts of kicking the mestizos out filled her mind. But you know what? We got some nice infrastructure, and that's all that matters. Really. Chiapas, Oaxaca, Sonora. Hey, listen. Cope and seethe. That's all I have to say to you guys. That's not very fun, I'll be honest, but... Father Ramiro flipped through the front page of the common room of the parsonage. The front page was full of the usual suite of articles, proclamations from the government, guerrilla actions in Chihuahua, new film releases. The only title that caught his eye was the one that mentioned his home state. Yams drive economic boom in rural Tlaxcala, bold letters exclaimed. Good news from Ejidos was rare these days. He skimmed through the lead and flipped through the full article on page 3. As it happened, the tubers went for a handsome price on the market, but they were not staying in Mexico. The vegetables were being sold to American pharmaceutical companies. Across the border, the yams were bathed in an acid extracted chemical called disogenin. There was combined with other regions to create progesterone. The progesterone was then mixed with estrogen to create contraceptive pills. Father Ramiro's eyes widened as a paper slipped from his hands. Madrazo's administration had doomed the souls of Lord knows how many faithful peasants. Father Ramiro stood and hurried to the office, dialing the number of his bishop in the state capital of shaking hands. Something had to be done. Oh, Jesus Christ, are we going to freak out about yams now? Not the yams. Siempre! A recent phenomenon in the capital, the arrival of so-called cafe cantes that are beginning to spring up in the city's underbelly. Young people drink bootlegged alcohol, commit promiscuities, and engage in antisocial behavior, all to the tune of Yankee rock music, which is becoming a pervasive influence among the children and teenagers of all walks of life. These songs, via subliminal messaging, persuade these young people to engage in these banal acts for the sake of American cultural imperialism. The youth of this nation are in crisis. They are misled. What of the revolution? What about this country? What about its people? The poor and the needy lie in squalor. Not only are they neglected by local authorities, their own children neglect them. I appeal to you young men and women to devote yourselves to the workers and the peasants. Echeverria never usually read rags like these. When he did, it was only to look for anything out of line. In this case, the editorial had been particularly careful to limit criticism of the party to that of vague local authorities. He found himself in agreement for once. Yes, it was dreadful. Terrible. This sort of thing was unbecoming of people that age. But then these thoughts hit closer to home. And Alvaro, Echeverria's son, what if he got mixed up in all this? Drinking, getting into fights, narcotics... No, no more! Echeverria tossed the magazine and reached for his telephone. He realized while sitting through the dial tone, this was also a great opportunity to gain a face in the eyes of the president. Yes, he would be getting him Madrazo's good graces while putting these wayward kids back in their place. How fulfilling it is to be the man who gets things done. Secretary Cardenas? I've just seen something very concerning. Can make the one demand. Marte Rodolfo Gomez, the Secretary of Agriculture, locked his office for the day, massage's aching writing hand. Before he picked up his briefcase again and headed towards the elevator. Before he could make it out of the building, he was intercepted by Assistant Maria. To get a chance to read those letters? Unfortunately. I think every Catholic in the country wants me to ban the cultivation of yams. Maria snorted at that. But they did get me reading. Contraceptive sales in last year alone totaled in the hundreds of millions of pesos worldwide. Wow. Indeed. I gave the president a call after I found out neither of his father was right for foreign industries to make all this money off the back of the peasantry. The government's going to nationalize the supply chain and fund construction of chemical plants to produce the pill domestically. Wouldn't that just make the church hate us more? Maria asked. Gomez shrugged in reply. It's not their choice to make. Robledo won't be sleeping tonight. Washington is calling. That's kind of clever. Uplift some isolated communities. Let's do so in the West. Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank the CNC for allowing me to speak today. Marte Rodolfo Gomez Segura arranged his notes. His lecture on new irrigation techniques had gone well, he thought. Even some of the finer details of water wheel systems seemed to go over the heads of a largely illiterate audience. These men had been tilling the fields from cradle to grave the same way for the past 80 years, and always viewed new developments with a mixture of skepticism and amusement. What do they care for some new electric motors from America? Segura nodded to acknowledge lukewarm applause. He stepped off his stage right, not noticing the governor of Puebla flanking from his left. Secretary Segura. Our own Marino Fernandez was around 10 years Segura's junior. He was sprightly, full of vigor, intelligent, an agronomist by profession after all, so certainly no idiot, like his arrogant mind might suggest. I was paying close attention to your lectures. Brilliant, really, but, some of the material. He carried a notebook with him I flicked open for Segura. As you see here, and so on. This new curriculum is a great piece of work, Secretary, but it's outdated. Some would say it works fine as it is, Governor. I'm sure you saw the audience, no? The turned heads when I mentioned sprinklers. He'll never accept this. Segura straightened his tie. He'd appreciate Fernandez's concern, of course, but this had taken a lot out of him already. All I'm asking is that you should consider updating the material, Secretary. Fernandez patted Segura on the shoulder before trooping on past. The decision was his to make. Modernize the curriculum, CNC be damned. I mean, the peasants are still pretty happy. So I'm not too worried at all. Well, we have to choose between these two eventually, but I think it's clear that we start working towards a rival outfit. While modernizing agriculture is significant progress, we cannot forget that the real enemy plaguing the countryside, agribusiness. The creation of ejidos was a crucial reform that improved the lives of countless farmers. Yet when foreign corporations poured into the country, it seemed like the reform was for nothing. Large conglomerates have established unbreakable monopolies that only worsen the quality of life for peasants, with low wages, hoarding of wealth, and inhumane working conditions. Article 27 of the Constitution gives us control over Mexican land and water, including private property. Using this article, we'd be able to eliminate the foreign monopolies. Through taxing and putting heavy restrictions on agribusiness, the ejidos can expand their influence on the agrarian sector. Well, Japan had no fear of Cardenas, but now the Zaibatsu drip poison in its diplomat's ears. And the Ciclone del Sureste is unwelcome in El Norte. But we'll have to see the consequences of that next time, my friends, because I gotta leave things there. Thank you for watching, though. Like, so if you liked, dislike if you didn't. Leaving comments, feedback down in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and I appreciate any all feedback that I have for me. Check out my various links on the description box below. Leaving comments, feedback down in the comment section below as well. And hit the sub button notification bell to keep up to date with these uploads as they come out. That's going to be it for now, my friends. I thank you all for watching. My name has been Mr. Dogboat333, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye now.